Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we got a couple of things to discuss, including a recap of the last few days of NHL action, a couple of signings, waiver updates, a couple of injury updates, and some trade rumors involving the Sens, Flyers, Oilers, Bruins, and the Canucks. I'm going to all of that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Edmonton Hockey Channel. Before we start this video, remember to like this video and subscribe down below. We're so close to 200 subscribers. I would never be able to do this without you. You guys have been so supportive, so thanks for all of the support, and don't forget to subscribe. Now, as usual, I'm going to kick things off today by discussing the past 3 days of NHL action. We've had a lot of NHL action. We had 7 games go on Thursday. We had 2 games go yesterday on Friday. So there was a lot of good NHL action. We have a plethora of games coming up today on Saturday. So we'll get to that in a second. But we wanted to just quickly recap what happened on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday, we had a handful of really good games. The Rangers beat the Sabres 5-1. There's a lot of really good players there in New York who had a really good game to open the season. Peterka scored the lone goal for Buffalo. Lafreniere opened the scoring for the Rangers. Good to see Lafreniere get on the score sheet after the preseason he had, after all the questions that were surrounding him. Good to see him start off on the right foot. Panarin had a goal, the third one for the Rangers, and an assist. Kreider had a 2-goal performance, getting the second and fourth goal for Rangers. Also had a assist. Zibanejad had a 3-assist night. Trouba scored the other goal for the Rangers. But it was a solid game for the Rangers. Sabres definitely need to clean up some of their defensive work, but definitely the Rangers came out flying, and they look really good right now. We also had the Flyers beat up the Jackets 4-2. Really good game there for the Flyers. Farabee opened the scoring in the game, and Sean Couturier, who's missed a ton of NHL action, really close to 2 years since he's last played, due to his injuries. He got on the score sheet with a helper, so good to see that. Atkinson, who got the eventual game winner, put a third goal for the Flyers in TMT net. He scored after missing the entirety of last year due to injuries, so that's good to see for the Flyers. Konechny scored the other 2 goals for the Flyers, so a 2-goal game for Konechny. Long gets a couple of assists, so some really good stuff there from Philadelphia. From the Columbus Blue Jackets, Laine made it 3-2 late. He got a goal. Good to see it. Laine starts off on the right foot this year. Bean scored the other goal for the Blue Jackets. And in this goal here, which was Jake Bean's goal, and Fantilli had his first career NHL assist. So good to see Fantilli get on the score sheet really early in his career. Really good to see. And hopefully that's the first of many points for Fantilli. He'll try and get his first NHL goal later on today. So good to see if Fantilli got a point. But the Jackets do fall at the hands of the Flyers 4-2, even though Merzlikins looked a lot better in this game than he did last year. If you look at the Devils and the Red Wings, was a really close back and forth matchup. Wings were up 1-0. Devs took a 2-1 lead to the third period. Wings were able to tie it at 2. Devs would get a goal plus an empty netter to make it 4-2, and then the Wings would score a late one to make it 4-3. So the empty netter winds up once again winning the game for the Devils. It was a huge game for a lot of sides. Sprong scored his first goal as a member of the Red Wings to open up the scoring for Detroit. On top of that, DeBrincat scored his first goal as a member of the Red Wings. That made it 2-2. On that goal, Gostisbehere got an assist for his first point as a member of the Red Wings, so some really good things there. For the Devils, Jack Hughes had a 2-goal game, scoring his first and second goal of the season. That made it 1-1 with the Red Wings and 2-1 Devils. Hamilton scored his first of the season to make it 3-2. Haula scoring the empty net to make it 4-2. Foley got his first point as a member of the Devils, a assist. So some good news there for the Devils. Really solid, tight-knit battle. Both teams looked really good. I expect some big things from the Devils this year. I'm not surprised the Red Wings did lose. They're going to do well, but not overly well. So good to see those two do well there. Then we went to 3 5 o'clock games, and they were all low scoring. First, Stars and Blues battle in the Central Division. The Stars thought they scored late in the first period by Wyatt Johnston, but it was called off. They would wind up scoring just a mere 18 seconds into the second period, thanks to Jamie Benn. Johnston did get an assist on that one. So a couple of really good plays there from the Stars, but they did lead 1-0. They lasted for just over 2 minutes until Tyler Tucker, a young defenseman of the St. Louis Blues, wound up tying the game. So, like I said, solid game from both sides. It was 1-1 all the way through to the shootout, where in the first round of the shootout, Brayden Schenn and Jason Robertson would both score. It was 1-1. Then Matt Duchene would score for the Stars to make it 2-1 Stars, and all the other shooters missed, and the Stars would wind up with the 2-1 shootout victory over the St. Louis Blues. So a solid win there for the Stars to win in the shootout on their opener. Definitely, really like that game. Then we had a couple of shutouts. First, with Minnesota. As you can see in this goal here, Brock Faber, who's the Wild's defenseman, who had a good showing late in the last year and also played a couple of playoff games, he gets his first career NHL goal to open the scoring against the Florida Panthers. So a huge goal there for Brock Faber. That's a really, really good goal. That made 1-0. Joel Eriksson Ek would make it 2-0 midway through the second period. That would be all the scoring. Eriksson Ek scores a goal and an assist. Faber gets his first career NHL goal. Gustafsson shuts out the Florida Panthers, and the Wild take their opener 2-0 over Florida. So a solid game there from the Wild. On top of that, we also had the Preds and Kraken, both teams looking for their first win after losing their first game in regulation. The Kraken would surrender the first goal of the game, short-handed to the Cole Incisions, and midway through the second period, making a 1-0 Preds. The Preds would add 2 goals later in the third period. First, it was Gustav Nyquist, who scores first as a member of the Predators. Then Parssinen, who scores second in as many games to put the game away, as the Predators would win 3-0 and shut out the Kraken. I still believe in the Kraken. I still believe they can do well. If you guys watched my Western Conference preview predictions, if you haven't, I'll link it up in the YouTube cards. But if you guys have watched my predictions, you know where I'm ranking Seattle. I still believe in them, but they gotta find their offensive game and they gotta find it fast. But Nashville did really good. Saros stood on his head and did fantastic work to limit the Kraken's offense. So definitely good to see Saros get a shutout and the Preds win their first game of the season. And then we had the Knights play the Sharks in the nightcap. Knights and Sharks were tied 1-1 after 1 thanks to late goals from Michael Amadio and Philip Zadina, who scores first as a member of the Sharks. Then there were 2 late second period goals, one from Nicholas Hague, one from Nick Roy, to give the Knights a 3-1 lead going to the third. And then this early third period goal from Knights defenseman Braden Packel, who had had his first career NHL goal, made it 4-1 Knights, and that's exactly the way the game finished. Knights were able to win 4-1, so Packel gets his first NHL goal. Roy also scores, Amadio scores, Hague adds the goal and an assist. William Karlsson has a 2-assist game, so another solid game from Vegas to improve to 2-0-0, while the Sharks in their opener lose, dropping to 0-1-0, and Philip Zadina is able to get his first goal as a member of the San Jose Sharks, so solid game there. Then we went on to 2 games that we had yesterday. First, it was the Devils and the Coyotes. The Coyotes were able to come out to a 2-0 lead before 3 straight goals, including 2 power play goals from the Devils that made it 3-2. The Coyotes later in the third period were able to make it 3-3 thanks to a Nick Schmaltz goal. And then in the shootout, both Nick Schmaltz and Nick Bukestad would score to give the Coyotes the 2-0 shootout win and the 4-3 win in the shootout. So a huge win there for the Coyotes. Dursey would score his first goal as a member of the Coyotes. Dumba would score his first goal as a member of the Coyotes. Schmaltz had a goal and an assist in that game. Cooley had his first 2 NHL points. Primary assist here on this Dursey goal that made it 2-0, as well as an assist on the Schmaltz game tying goal. Keller had a 2-assist night too, so a really good performance there from some of the Coyotes. Jack Hughes assisted on all 3 New Jersey Devil goals. Jesper Bratt had 2 goals and an assist. Dougie Hamilton had the other goal for the Devils, so it was a really solid performance out there by the New Jersey Devils, and Jack Hughes continues to impress. And then we also had the Penguins take on the Capitals. Penguins following their first game of the season where they lost to the Blackhawks in bad fashion, blowing a 2-goal lead. They came out, they were firing on all cylinders after a scoreless first period. 3 second period goals led them to a 3-0 lead. They would tally a 4th in the third period to make it a 4-0 win for them. Malkin opened the scoring. He was able to get the first goal for the Penguins, and then tallied 3 assists for a 4-point night. So it was a fantastic night for Malkin. Crosby added a couple of goals. Gensel added a couple of assists. Raleigh Smith scores first as a member of the Penguin, and Erik Karlsson had his first point as a member of the Penguin, assisting on Malkin's opening goal. So a fantastic game there from the Penguins. So Penguins, fantastic win there. Coyotes were able to oust the Devils in a shootout. Knights beat the Sharks 4-1. Preds shut out the Kraken 3-0, while the Wild shut out the Panthers 2-0. Stars win a shootout 2-1 over the Blues. Devils won the day before the game against the Oats against the Red Wings 4-3. Rangers win 5-1 over the Sabres, and Flyers beat the Jackets 4-2. So some really good game action there. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on which games you think were the most exciting over those past 2 days. I have a whole bunch of games coming up for this next few days, including 14 games today. As I'm recording this video, the Sens and Flyers game just got underway, so we got that game going on. Sens are looking for the first win of the season, taking on the Flyers. At 1 o'clock Pacific time, you have the Florida Panthers taking on the Winnipeg Jets. At 4 o'clock Pacific time. You have a handful of games. Preds take on the Bruins, Rangers take on the Jackets, Bulls take on the Red Wings, Canadiens take on the Blackhawks, Flames take on the Penguins, Wild take on the Maple Leafs. At 4:30 you have Sabres and Islanders. At 5 you have Kraken and Blues. Then at 7 o'clock you have a rematch of Wednesday's beatdown by the Canucks. Canucks take on Oilers. You have the Avalanche take on the Sharks. Avs looking for a second straight win. Knights looking to start the season 3-0, taking on the Ducks in their season opener. And then the Canes take on the Kings, a huge game between a California team and one of the better teams in the league. So it'll be interesting to see there. There are 2 games tomorrow, not overly significant. You have at 4 o'clock, the Sens take on the Bolts. And at 5:30 Pacific time, you have the Canes take on the Ducks. And then there are 5 games on Monday. Detroit takes on Columbus. New Jersey takes on Florida. Coyotes take on Rangers. Hawks take on Leafs. And Caps take on Flames, all at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So it'll be interesting to see. But those are your previews for the upcoming days of NHL hockey and a recap of the last 2 days. It'll be interesting to see how everyone does. But going back to my regular news videos, we got 2 signings here to talk about from the past couple of days. One was a PTO that was converted into a NHL contract, and one was a major contract extension. So we'll get to the PTO that was converted into a contract first, and that's Adam Erne. Erne, who went to training camp on a PTO with the Edmonton Oilers, has signed a 1-year contract, league minimum, with the Edmonton Oilers. So that's really good news to see. The Oilers could definitely use some bottom 6 help in Edmonton. I think he could be a fantastic fit with guys like Derek Ryan and Matthias Janmark on the 4th line. So that's a fantastic addition there. The past few years, he's hit around the 20-point mark with Detroit, so I expect him to definitely do really well. I think Erne could be a fantastic fit there with the Edmonton Oilers on their 4th line. I think he could definitely put up like 5, maybe 10 goals, around 15-20 points. I think that's sort of where you're going to get with Erne. So this is a really good sign in my opinion. I think Erne definitely earned his 1-year deal. Good to see that he was actually able to earn a 1-year deal. There's still a handful of PTOs which have not been either given out or released yet, so we're still going to have to wait on a number of PTOs, but this is the only PTO update we have as well. So Erne getting his new contract, huge news for him. He's going to be a fantastic addition in the Oilers' bottom 6, and I feel like this is a really good move by the Oilers. So Erne, short term, he'll help in the bottom 6, and it's only a 1-year deal, so it's nothing that's going to be too long term. But I think for this year, in the bottom 6, playing maybe like the 4th line with Ryan and Janmark, this is going to be a fantastic deal for the Edmonton Oilers. Oilers signed Erne to a 1-year deal that's really, really good. I like this deal a lot. He's a fantastic bottom 6 forward. He can kill penalties. He's a very versatile forward. He can play wing. He can play center. This is a really good deal, in my opinion, for the Oilers. And the other signing was a major contract extension for another NHL defenseman. This one, Devon Toews. We know Toews in Colorado was being talked about as being extended in the not-too-distant future. The Avs really want to keep him. They were able to do so. Now, the Avalanche signed Cale Makar's partner, Devon Toews, who is a really, really good defenseman, to an amazing contract. He gets 7 years at $7.25 million. This is a steal of a deal, in my opinion, for the Avalanche already. Toews is a fantastic top pair defenseman. On the open market, he will have gone probably between 8 and 9, if not exceeding $9 million. So I definitely think there was a lot more money on the table that Toews could have gotten, but he sacrifices a lot of money in exchange to take a little bit less money and stay with the cup-contending Avalanche. So Toews, in my opinion, is a fantastic top-pair defenseman. He really helps Cale Makar be better. I think Makar is a fantastic NHL player, in my opinion. But player with Toews, he's an absolutely brilliant defenseman. So I think Toews doesn't get enough credit for how well he's done. And I think this is going to be aged as a fantastic contract. Now, he is 30, so 7 years does take until he's 37, so there's a little bit of risk involved, and the last few years may not be fantastic. But for the next couple of years, while he's continuing to put up points, while he's continuing to be a top-pair defenseman, while he's continuing to help the Avalanche be a fantastic defensive team, this is going to be a fantastic deal. Last year, Toews put up 7 goals and 50 points in 80 games. The year prior, he put up 13 goals and 57 points in 66 games. So he's been able to put up over 50 points the past couple of years. I would not be surprised if he put between 50 and 60 points again this year. He already has an assist in an opener against the LA Kings this year. So definitely, I think this is a fantastic deal for the Avalanche. There was a lot of talk that they wanted to get this done as soon as they could. They couldn't get it done for opening night, but they do wind up getting it done. This is a huge deal. Toews is going to be an Avalanche for the next 7 years. And this is an absolutely brilliant deal in my opinion. I thought Toews Toews would have probably gone around the $8 million mark. If he was going to take a little bit of a discount. I was shocked when he got under $7.5 million. So this is, in my opinion, going to age fantastically for the Avalanche. This is going to be a fantastic deal, and Toews, in my opinion, is going to be a long-term Avalanche. So really, really good. Toews does not go to free agency now. That's another huge defensive name off the market. It'll be interesting to see what other big names come around free agency time. But for the time being, we know that Toews is not going to free agency, and he'll remain with Cale Makar and the Colorado Avalanche for the next 7 years. So a really good sign there for the Avalanche to lock up Toews on a long-term deal to remain top pair partners with Cale Makar. And it's also good to see Erne convert his PTO into an NHL contract to be a really good bomb six forward with the Edmonton Oilers. So fantastic moves there for those two guys to get signed. Going over to a quick waiver update here. I'm not exactly sure if I did mention this in my last video, but St. Louis Blues prospect Andre Heim, who was placed on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination, did indeed clear. So Heim, who was a decent prospect, not top-end level prospect, who wasn't getting very much playing time, winds up clearing waivers, being terminated. So he does go overseas. I'm not overly surprised by that. So it'll be interesting to see what Heim does next. But he's not with St. Louis. So that happened Thursday morning. On Thursday, there was no players placed on waivers, but there was one guy placed on waivers yesterday. We don't know if he's cleared or not yet at the recording of this video, but we do know that the Oilers, in order to get that Erne signing finalized, placed Marcus Niemelainen on waivers. The defenseman who was injured to begin this season made the cap really difficult for the Oilers with injuries. They really had to play shorthanded in the opener along with the Canucks. So Niemelainen is now healthy, so he's placed on waivers in order to create the cap space to sign an Erne to his new deal. So interesting move there by the Oilers. I don't think it was too much of a surprise. I don't think they originally wanted Niemelainen on the roster, but because he got injured, they really couldn't do anything with that. So they had to play shorthanded in the opener, and now Niemelainen's being sent down. So that's a really good move, in my opinion, for the Oilers to free up enough cap space to sign Erne, who's a good bomb six forward. I'm not sure if anyone would take Niemelainen. He's at best, in my opinion, like a 7th defenseman at this point in time. I think would be better suited in the AHL, so I would not be overly shocked if he cleared. If he was claimed, it wouldn't be overly surprising. He's still a really good young defenseman who I think in time could be a solid third pair defenseman. But in my eyes, I think there's a strong chance that the Oilers' D prospect winds up clearing and going back to the minors. So it'll be interesting to see, but in order to create the cap space for Erne, the Oilers had to put Niemelainen on waivers, which I don't think is too surprising, and I think there's a very good chance he winds up clearing. But Niemelainen's the only one on waivers right now, and the only waiver update we've had in the last couple of days, so it'll be interesting to see if there's anyone placed on waivers this weekend, and it'll be interesting to see if anyone winds up getting claimed. So some interesting news on the waiver updates there. We have a couple of quick injury updates to talk about here. First, Tyler Mott's upper body injury has been upgraded to indefinite. He missed the opener, if I'm correct, against the Nashville Predators, so that's not overly good news. Mott's a fantastic bomb six forward, so to lose him for any period of time is not really good, but hopefully he's not out for an overly long period of time, even though he's out indefinitely, and hopefully he can come back in the not-too-distant future. Brock McGinn in Anaheim has a lower body injury and is out day-to-day. Not really good news there. Luke Schenn has a lower body injury. He's going to be out for an unknown period of time. He missed that game against the Seattle Kraken, so not really good news there. Anton Lundell was cleared to play and did play in the Panthers opener, as did Alexei Toropchenko, who was also cleared to play. Columbus lost Zach Werenski, like we said, in that game against the Philadelphia Flyers. He's going to be out about 1 to 2 weeks with a quadricep injury, so not overly fantastic for Werenski. It's a lot better than originally thought. Werenski missed a ton of last year due to injury, so it's good to see it's only a couple of weeks. Hopefully Werenski can be back before the end of the month. Marcus Johansson also had an undisclosed injury. He's going to be out for an unknown period of time. Mikael Granlund was placed on injury reserve. He's going to be out day-to-day right now with an undisclosed injury, so he'll be out for probably at least the next week. Alex Pietrangelo has an upper body injury, out for an unknown period of time for the Knights. Not really good news there. He's a really big piece of that Knights blue line. Kyle Palmieri seems to have been cleared to play. He might be able to get into game action for tonight's game against the Sabres, which would be really good. Robbie Fabry suffered an undisclosed injury in that first game against the New Jersey Devils. He's out day-to-day right now. Taylor Hall's injury, which we talked about in the last video, was a week-to-week injury, really bad. It's been an upgrade to day-to-day, so it might not be as bad as once feared, but Hall does seem to be doing a little bit better, so hopefully he's not out for an overly long period of time. Niemelainen was cleared to play, which is why he was sent on waivers. Teddy Blueger's undisclosed injury has been upgraded to week, so not really good news there, while Carson Sousa's knee injury has been downgraded to day-to-day, so hopefully Sousa's not going to be out for an overly long period of time. And then we also found out that Marcus Stelic has been cleared to play for the Sens, should be able to play for the Senators for this early game here today against the Philadelphia Flyers. And there's also a lot of talk that Josh Norris may be able to get back either today against Philadelphia or tomorrow against Tampa, so that'll be a huge boost for the Ottawa Senators. So some good injury news there. A lot of guys getting back from injuries. Really bad news for Mott to be out indefinitely. Werenski to be out for a couple of weeks with a quadricep injury. And Garland to be out for at least probably next week, being placed on IR. Really bad news for some of those guys there, but hopefully they're not out for an overly long period of time. They can come back in the not too distant future. So those are your injury updates. A couple of quick trade rumors here to discuss. First, Philadelphia Flyers GM Daniel Briere was doing a couple of radio hits, and it sounds like he's open to acquiring teams' bad contracts. He said he'd not be opposed to helping other teams out. The Flyers have cap space. They'd be willing, I'm guessing, to move Ryan Ellis from long-term injury reserve if it were to help them get some picks and prospects in order to take on bad contracts. There's a lot of teams out there right now who are tied up against the cap, such as the Ottawa Senators, trying to get Shane Pinto signed, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I know that the Canucks are looking to possibly move Connor Garland. There's a couple of other teams out there who are really tied up against the cap and could use a little bit of cap flexibility. So it sounds like just like the last couple of years with the Hawks and the Coyotes, where in season they'd be willing to be like third-team brokers, like taking on bad contracts as long as they'd be able to be well compensated for it. It sounds like Philadelphia is sort of in that pool as well. It sounds like Philly's going to be willing to take bad contracts on possibly this entire year. I don't think there'll be any trades in the not too distant future because it really is early in the season. People are trying to figure out what they have. But I do think it is possible that the later we are in the season, there's a stronger chance that Philadelphia winds up being a team who's willing to take on bad contracts. So, I mean, they're not going to take the bad contracts on for nothing. They want picks and prospects in return. So it'll be interesting to see. We know that we've said that Philadelphia is one of the major likely landing spots for a guy like Joesph or Erik Brannstrom, and they want like a first-round pick or a high-level prospect for it. So, like I said, they're not going to do it easily. It doesn't sound like Philadelphia is willing to at least listen in and possibly be willing to take on some bad contracts from some teams. So, if there's a team who wants to do a cap dump, it sounds like Philadelphia might be a team who's open to making a trade. So, Philadelphia is going to be a name we have to keep an eye on over the next little while to possibly be seen take on bad contracts. Another thing we have to talk about is that the Ottawa Senators, according to TSN Insider Trading's Darren Dreger, it sounds like the Sens are really trying hard to move some cap space. They're still really working hard to try and move Matthew Joesph, and he said that they've had trade talks around Erik Brannstrom as well. So, like I said, Matthew Joesph, Erik Brannstrom, probably the most likely two to leave. I would expect those two to probably likely go. It'll be interesting to see if they wind up making a move in the not too distant future. But if Norris isn't going to be injured, and he's most likely going to get into the next game or two, then he's not going to be placed in long-term injury reserve, and they still, once again, don't have cap space to sign Pinto. So it most likely winds up being the fact that they either have to move Brannstrom or Joesph, move one of those two in order to sign Pinto. A lot of people think right now that Pinto has some sort of a handshake agreement in place for as soon as the Senators are able to move Matthew Joesph for Erik Brannstrom. So I think that's possible. It sounds like Pinto negotiations have been going on forever, but hopefully they are close or have verbally agreed on a possible contract extension, and if that's true, then it's just a matter of a trade, and it sounds like they're still trying to work really hard on it. I still think Joesph, Brannstrom, most likely. I think that the Flyers is possibly still interested. I would not be surprised if the Sharks would be in the team interested. So it'll be interesting to see, but it sounds like those teams could be interested in guys like Joesph or Brannstrom. And it sounds like the Sens, if they really want to sign Shane Pinto, are probably going to have to try and move one of those guys. So it'll be interesting to see there. But definitely, it sounds like Pinto, in order for him to sign, it's not going to take Norris going on long-term injury reserve, but more likely a trade. And it's still Joesph, Brannstrom being shopped around, and hopefully in the not-too-distant future, one of those two are moved. So Pinto can be signed, get back into the lineup, and the Sens can have a full roster. So hopefully that doesn't take over a long period of time. Going over to the Edmonton Oilers, a lot of people were really concerned with Edmonton's performance in goal last game against the Vancouver Canucks when both Campbell and Skinner gave up 4 goals. So Boston Hockey Now's Jim Murphy was talking about this and said that if the Oilers continue to have really bad goaltending performances, that the Oilers may wind up calling Boston and seeing on the availability of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. He says that the Bruins did have conversations around the two goalies with the Oilers early in the offseason. Like we said, we know the Bruins don't want to lose either of those two goalies, but if it was to help them clear cap space to go after a top-line center, I think they would definitely do so. I'm not exactly sure what they would want in a trade. Ullmark would be a fantastic goaltender for the Oilers, so would Swayman. I've talked about Swayman before. I said he would be a good fit in LA. Maybe a guy like Deneau goes back to Boston. I said that was a possibility, but it wouldn't happen right now. I think there's going to be a lot of speculation around the Boston Bruins two goaltenders this year, and I think there's a possibility that with Hellebuyck especially now off the market, that a lot of teams who need a goaltender, like in LA, like in Edmonton, turn to Boston to possibly look to try and pry one of their goaltenders out. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the Bruins would want if they were to trade an Ullmark or a Swayman. My guess would probably be one of Campbell or Skinner back, as well as some picks, prospects, maybe even a top-line center. I would be wondering if they'd possibly be interested in a guy like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as like a second-line center. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I talked about this before. If the Oilers start the season poorly, and Campbell's a really big reason of that, and he's not playing overly well, there's a lot of talk that the Oilers could go into the goaltending market, try and upgrade in the net position. And if that's true, I think Ullmark or Swayman could be very high on their list. Now, can they get them? It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure if they have the assets to pull it off, but it does sound like if the Oilers could possibly continue to fall and not do overly well, and Campbell and Skinner don't do great over the next couple of weeks, we could wind up seeing a goalie trade in Edmonton, and that could lead to possibly them trying to acquire a guy like Linus Ullmark or Jeremy Swayman in Boston. It'll be interesting to see, but that does seem like it's a possibility if the Oilers continue to play really poorly in net. And lastly here, going over to the Vancouver Canucks, there have been a couple of people who have been discussing the Connor Garland situation, including Elliot Friedman and Rick Dhaliwal on the Donnie and Dolly show, and they've said a couple of teams who could have some interest. It sounded there's some interest in Garland to be a solid middle six winger. Friedman did say that they may have to retain around 30% and possibly add a sweetener to make the trade work. I'm not exactly sure if they'd be overly welcome to retaining 30% of Garland's salary, but if they were to retain enough salary to make it maybe between like $3.5 and $4 million, maybe that would be a little more appetizing to some teams. So it'll be interesting to see. Garland's a really fast winger. I've heard the Jets be mentioned over the past couple of days. The Jets could definitely probably use another solid winger. Like we said, the Canucks could definitely use some defensive additions. Maybe a younger guy like Dylan DeMello could be an addition for the Canucks. Ville Heinola, if he was to be able to get healthy in the not distant future. I know he's injured right now, but maybe the Canucks can get him for like their long-term fits. So there's a couple of other options there in the Jets if they were to try and move Garland there. There's been a lot of talk about Columbus after Columbus said that they've had too many defensemen and they'd be willing to move one of them. So if Garland was to be moved, maybe a guy like Peak or Boakfist or Bean wind up going to the Canucks if that's a possible trade. I think it's a possibility. But one name that's really been mentioned is the Nashville Predators. Preds look like they could definitely be interested in Garland. Definitely, the Predators could use a ton more scoring on that team. Their forward group is a little bit weak, so adding a top 6, top 9 forward would be a fantastic addition for Nashville. Now, they also have an abundance of right-shot defensemen. Luke Schenn, Dante Fabro, Alex Carrier, and Tyson Barrie. That's a ton of defensemen. So I do think there's a possibility they could try and make some sort of a move. Now, could the Canucks trade maybe like Garland and a second or third round pick for a Fabro or a Carrier? I think it's possible. I think they did have some interest in Fabro before, so I wouldn't be overly shocked. Fabro seems like the sort of guy who might be a really good partner for Quinn Hughes. Alex Carrier may be a really good top 4 right shot defenseman and someone who could really help the team, and both make $2.5 million. So if they move Garland, they'll also be freeing up a little bit of cap space as well. So it'll be interesting to see, but I definitely do see the fit for Garland in Nashville. A solid team who could use a middle 6 forward, could use some 5-on-5 scoring, has the cap space to take on a Connor Garland, and has an abundance of right shot defensemen. So I really see the fit there, but the question is, will be those two teams actually able to get a deal done? It'll be interesting to see, but it sounds like Nashville, possibly Winnipeg and Columbus have interest in Garland, and it would not be overly shocking if those teams wound up hooking up on a trade with the Vancouver Canucks to pry the middle six forward out of Vancouver. So it'll be interesting to see. That's all I'm going to talk about here today. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments, what you thought about the last few days of NHL action. What is the biggest surprise for you? Do you like the signing for Devon Toews or Erne? Are you surprised Niemelainen went on waivers? Really bad injury news. Which do you think was the worst injury? Do you see Philadelphia take on some bad contracts this season as possibly cap dumps? Do you see the Edmonton Oilers possibly trying to make a move to acquire possibly a guy like Ullmark? Could the Senators wind up moving Joesph or Branston? I think right now it's the most likely possibility. Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on who you think is the most likely possibility to be moved. And also, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you think Garland gets moved in the next couple of weeks? And if so, is it possible in Nashville, Winnipeg, or Columbus are one of the more likely ones? Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. Remember to like this video and subscribe down below. Again, we're so close to 200 subscribers. I would never be able to do this without you. So thanks all of you guys for your support. Once again, don't forget to subscribe down below. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So definitely check that out. I'll have links down in the description below. And I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.